Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Shrinvatam Svakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto hi apatrani vidunoti shruti satam नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकीः. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 31, verses 8 and 9. Text 8. Maitreya Uvacha Iti Prachetasam Prashto Bhagavan Narado Munihi Bhagavatya Uttama Shloka Avistatma Pravindrupan. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, being thus petitioned by the Pratechas, the supreme devotee Narada, who is always absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, began to reply. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this verse, Bhagavan Narada indicates that Narada is always absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavate Uttama Shloka Avishtatma. Narada has no other business than thinking of Krishna, talking of Krishna, and preaching about Krishna. Therefore, he is sometimes called Bhagavan. Bhagavan means one who possesses all opulences. When a person possesses Bhagavan within his heart, he is also sometimes called Bhagavan. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastrai. In every Shastra, the spiritual master is accepted directly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This does not mean that the spiritual master or a saintly person like Narada has actually become the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is accepted in this way because he possesses the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart constantly. As described here, avistatma, when one is simply absorbed in the thought of the Krishna, one is called Bhagavan. Bhagavan possesses all opulence. If one possesses Bhagavan within his heart always, does he not automatically possess all opulence also? In that sense, a great devotee like Narada can be called Bhagavan. However, we cannot tolerate when a rascal or impostor is called Bhagavan. One must possess either all opulences or the Supreme Personality of Godhead Bhagavan who possesses all opulences. Text 9. Narada Uvacha Tajjnanam Tani Karmani Tad Ayush Tan Mano Vacha Nranam Enahi Vishwatma Shevate Harir Ishwaraha. Translation. The great sage Narada said, when a living entity is born to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Controller, his birth, all his fruitive activities, his lifespan, his mind, and his words are all factually perfect. Purport. In this verse, the word Nrinam is very important. There are many other births besides human birth, but Narada Muni is here in especially speaking of human birth. Among human beings, there are different types of men. Of these, who are advanced in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness are called Aryans. Among the Aryans are one who engages in the devotional service of the Lord is most successful in life. The word Nranam indicates that lower animals are not expected to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. But in perfect human society, everyone should engage in the devotional service of the Lord. It does not matter whether one is born poor or rich, black or white. There may be so many material distinctions for one who takes birth in human society, but everyone should engage in the Lord's devotional service. At the present moment, civilized nations have given up God consciousness for economic development. They are actually no longer interested in advancing in God consciousness. Formerly, their forefathers were engaged in executing religious principles. Whether one is Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, Jewish, or whatever, everyone has some religious institution. Really, real religion, however, means becoming God conscious. It is particularly mentioned herein that birth is successful if an interest in Krishna consciousness is taken. Activity is successful if it results in serving the Lord. Philosophical speculation or mental speculation is successful when engaged in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The senses are worth possessing when engaged in the service of the Lord. Actually, devotional service means engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. At the present moment, our senses are not purified. Therefore, our senses are engaged in the service of society, friendship, love, politics, sociology, and so on. However, when the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, one attains bhakti or devotional service. In the next verse, these matters will be more clearly explained. When one great devotee of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the Lord, he said that all his desires were fulfilled. He said, "Today everything is auspicious. Today my birthplace and neighborhood are completely glorified. Today my senses, from my eyes down to my toes, are fortunate. Today my life is successful because I have been able to see the lotus feet that are worshipped by the goddesses of fortune." Thus ends the purport. I thank you for giving me an opportunity to purify myself by reading the verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. Please forgive me for any shortcomings and if any own interpretations are made. Narad Muni guided countless souls, notably even great devotees like Dhruva, Prahlad Maharaj, Valmiki, and Vasya. We also read about Prithu Maharaj. Now, here also, we see that even prachetas are being guided and instructed by Narad Muni. So, once again, we offer an humble salutations unto the universal sage, Narad Muni. In these two verses, Narad Muni is trying to explain the prachetas. Now, in the first verse, as we read about, where Narad Muni is being referred with the title Bhagavan. Why Narad Muni was being titled as Bhagavan, the purport of Srila Prabhupada explains the reason. First, let's understand what do you mean by the word Bhaga, which is rooted in Bhaga from the word Bhagavan, which comes from the word Bhaga meaning fortune, wealth, majesty or divine splendor, and possessor of it. One is a possessor. So, one who possesses the six divine qualities. And what are those six divine qualities? They are infinite knowledge, jnana, detachment, vairagya, savaniti, aishwarya, power, shakti, strength, virya, and glory, yashas. So, whoever possesses these six opulence qualities are noted to be Bhagwan, and we are very well known that it is only the supreme personality of the Godhead who has these six qualities in abundance. So that is why he is being referred as Bhagavan. Now, let's understand the broad significance of this title of respect being given to Narad Muni. This title can also be used for entitled gurus or spiritual masters as a sign of profound respect, acknowledging their divine realization. So, in that context, here sage Narad Muni has been referred to as Bhagavan. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, the verse 43 directly addresses God's unique position. So, Pitasi lokasya characharasya tvam asya pujasya cha gurur gariyam na tvat samostya abhyatika kutonyo lokatraya pi apritima prabhavaha. The translation of this verse is: You are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation, the worshipable chief, the spiritual master. No one is equal to you, nor can anyone be one with you. Within the three worlds, you are immeasurable. So we should not misunderstand that when somebody is given title as Bhagavan, he is either equal to the Supreme Lord or he is one with the Lord. Here, Sri Lord Krishna directly gives that no one can be equal to him or no one is one with him. So, on the contrary, it is also imperative to bear in mind this title cannot be imposed on some cheaters claiming themselves to be God and misguiding and misleading people in the wrong way. In verse 9, it is talking about the 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 body of the human body being engaged in the devotional service, how it fulfills the everything. In Vedic and Vaishnava philosophy, particularly within the practice of Bhakti Yoga, the human body is considered a rarely achieved gift that serves as a medium for attaining spiritual perfection. When used for devotional service, the body is said to have met its fullest purpose because it has been transient from a tool for material gratification to an instrument for divine connection. The key aspects of this includes attainment of perfection. Sincere devotional service, even in small amounts, can lead to complete spiritual perfection through the temporary material body. The body can be transformed into a temple by engaging in service. It becomes a temple of the Holy Spirit or a sacred space where the divine resides, and it can be termed for transcendental purpose to please the Supreme Lord, fulfilling its highest possible utility. Otherwise, the body is considered useless or a waste of time once the soul inevitably leaves. As we see that when a person dies, the body gets dissolved and the elements get dissolved in the individual elements. So we knowing that body is going to be a waste, so one should engage the body for the right purpose. For the body should be engaged in the liberation from the material misery. Those who reach the highest stage of devotion using their physical form do not return to the cycle of birth and death, having achieved the highest perfection. Devotional service begun in a material body, continues eternally in spiritual body after liberation. So from this we can understand that the material body is just a medium where the divine shines through it. This perspective emphasizes that the body is a blessing from God and a medium to fulfill duty. When every limb is engaged in worship or service to humanity and God, human life is considered sanctified. That is why it is said, Manushya Janma Durlabha. Indeed, human life is rare and precious among all life. As we read in the purport, no other form of life can perform the devotional activities. That is why human body is given the most precious value. As a result, it is equally important to take care of the body to an extent which remains healthy to render devotional service. And how do we take care of our body? And that is also explained by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 17. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasya karmasu yukta swapnavbhavasya yogo bhavati dukhaha. The translation of this verse is, for one who is moderate in eating and recreation, balanced in work and regulated in sleep and wakefulness, yoga becomes the destroyer of misery. From this, it can be inferred that we engage our body in material enjoyment and the senses are contaminated, while the same senses are considered to be purified if engaged in devotional service. And by having a moderate kind of eating, balanced in work and in sleep, and being engaged in yoga, one can keep the body healthy too. So,